And this article just dropped today, early this morning. But let's first introduce our special guest for today. We're going to be going through this AOC, and I needed a good person that could actually give me some rant energy because this article deserves some rant energy. Welcome again to the show. What's up, Misty? How you doing?
Hey, yeah, I got rant energy for sure. That is something I definitely have. I'm good at that.
Yeah, because I just was like, wow, I can't believe they're writing this article again. But what it speaks to, because if you were we covering something similar to this? I just know that since the Freddie DeBauer, I think that's how you say his name, article, and that's the article that said AOC is just another Democrat. Mm-hmm. There's been a flurry, and I'm using flurry to describe three, really, but there's been 3 articles that's been reaction articles about that article. So clearly somebody is shook about the article and they're trying to kind of play cleanup or they're in panic mode. But have you had a chance to read this article, or are you going in blind? The one we're going.
I'm going in blind a little bit. I took a quick glance at it. I read really fast, but I didn't. To be fair, I didn't actually read. I just very much skimmed it. But the premise of it is absolutely ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Come on.
And that's essentially what the people in our orbit have been saying about the article, and I'll bring it up. It's a JACOBIN, sorry about that, JACOBIN article. I'll put the link in the description box in just a few moments, but it's a JACOBIN article entitled AOC and the Squad's List of Left-Wing Accomplishments is quite long. Like they could have just said list of left-wing accomplishments. That's it. But to add, it's quite long. It's like now you're really trying to like freaking sell me a freaking a bag of beans here. What did you think of the title, and what was your overall reaction just from skimming it? What is your overall reaction before we get into the article here?
Well, I mean, I think everybody knows what my reaction to this bullshit is. This is ridiculous. And Jacobin's long been a joke. I mean, I don't think anybody's surprised by that. It's like, DSA PR, essentially. So they're a joke, and this is a joke. And she is, there's nothing left wing, nothing. Absolutely nothing left wing about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and anybody who is still pretending that she is anywhere. And I get it, like everybody's, don't be a gatekeeper, but no, y'all, I will gatekeep the fuck out of these politicians. I don't want them anywhere near our movements. I don't want them anywhere near. Like somebody yelled at me about that the other day with Marianne Williamson. Oh, well, you shouldn't. I forget how they said it. Something about how Chris Hedges said that you don't have permanent allies, just permanent whatever. Right. Whatever he says. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Politicians are not ever going to be my ally. I don't trust them. They're not trustable. And they are very often working against us. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been openly and actively working against us at every turn. So the idea that I'm supposed to believe that she's some kind of left-wing hero, or that she's some kind of hero of the people, or that she doesn't deserve, this makes me joke. The left-wing vitriol, really? We're going to do that again? We're going to pretend like words are violence and that she's just, you have to, no, fuck her. I don't have to be nice to her. She sucks. And I don't feel bad about telling her that as often as possible. I don't know why anybody would.
I don't understand, like, what is the expectation that is of our reaction to people who took our money and didn't do anything? Like, what is the reaction supposed to be? And that was kind of like my first question, but let me read at least the caption they have here.
The first sentence. Okay, go ahead. No, the first sentence of this article.
It says, left-wing scrutiny of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the squad has veered from constructive criticism and needed pressure to a kind of cathartic vitriol. I'm saying that wrong, but everybody knows what I'm trying to say.
Characterish?
Yes. Caricature-ish.
Caricature-ish?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
It's a caricature so basically our vitriol is kind of like cartoonish, is what they're trying to say here. One that says nothing about their accomplishments or usefulness to workers' movements. I mean, again, did they really need to add this in here? Like,
I mean, y'all, listen, when they busted up that railroad worker strike, I mean, that was very useful. That was incredibly useful. When she completely sold out Amazon and refused to go and help them out with their strike because it wasn't in her neighborhood, that was very useful to those workers. You know, she's very useful. Yes, totally, 100%.
Yeah, and to that point, like, I'm trying to determine, Misty, if the professional managerial class or whoever, I'm trying to understand if they think we are dumb or they're actually believing the Kool-Aid, like drinking the Kool-Aid. That's what I'm trying to decipher, because to say usefulness to workers a few months after they broke a strike, that's amazing to me. That's amazing to me.
Yeah.
So either you think the reader is so uninformed, or you believe the reason that Ryan Grimm gave, that that the workers wanted her to vote to break their strike, the railroad workers, that is.
Yeah, fuck Ryan Grimm too. I mean, let's just get that.
Yeah. Let me read the title, and I'm going to read it again. It says, AOC and the squad list of left-wing accomplishments is quite long. And it's a similar title, now that I think about it, of the previous one that was similar. And it was written in the New Yorker magazine. We just covered this last week. I can't even remember the name, but I'll take that down to bring up the actual article. But it's a similar name, saying the left wing, or the this is what it said. The AOC left has accomplished plenty. I think that might ring a bell for some people, but that was the title. And here is the article we're going to be covering. And this is the only item today. I wasn't even going to go live. I was literally, Misty, about to lay down and take a nap and say, let me catch up on some rest. And I go, let me do a last check of Twitter just in case somebody DM me. I need to respond about an interview or something. And I see Nick's tweet is the first thing I see with this article. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
Well, when you DM me and you're like, hey, can you join me to talk about this article? I was like, I had like 900, my kids just started back to school. I hadn't even showered from getting back from the gym yet. I'm like, I'm a hot mess, but I'm like, I can't miss this. We got to do that.
And I'm in the same situation where kids just started back to school this week. Yeah. So that's why I have a small window to even go live. But with the small window we have, let's get into this article, Misty. It's quite something. It's quite something. Let's just say that it's quite something. And so let's begin. As with any elected official, and I'm going to just shorten her name anytime they spell her name out, AOC and the squad should be criticized when needed. But left-wing vitriol is unwarranted. It ignores the squad's many progressive accomplishments and their legislative aid to activist campaign. And I think you said this earlier. You said the very first sentence. So we got to stop right here.
Yes.
The very first sentence.
Not this sentence. I mean, this is like kind of a sub headline. The actual first sentence to this article is hilarious. It's hilarious.
Listen, this is the part that I kind of want to just bring up, and that is unwarranted.
It's warranted. Fully fucking warranted. And in fact, they don't get it enough, in my opinion. In fact, I wish that there were more people who were calling them out on a regular basis for their bullshit. As you mentioned earlier, they sold people a bill of goods and they promised the world, we're going to raise a ruckus. We're going to do all the things, right? We're going to get in there and we're going to fight. They don't even vote together. They openly tell you, no, we don't even vote together. We're not doing anything to use any of our political leverage whatsoever. They have failed us on every major issue. They're voting for more war. I mean, come on, really? We're going to pretend like that's unwarranted? It's fully fucking warranted. Fully 100% warranted. They took millions of dollars from people who don't have it to give on a promise that they were going to get in there and fight for us. And they absolutely fucking have not, period. Anybody trying to tell you that they have is lying to you. Straight up.
And as I'll take a point from Nick, and to me, Misty, that's worse. Because in the grand scheme, in the broad view, we're thinking, oh, if you don't take money from corporations, you're better. Really? Because is it better to take money from corporations and do corporate bidding? Or is it better to take money from working class and poor people and do corporate bidding?
Well, to be fair, though, they do take corporate money. It's not hard for them to do. For example, Nancy Pelosi donated to Ilhan Omar's reelection campaign. Where do you think that money comes from? It's from corporations. So there's lots of like little Weasley ways that they can, kind of take that money in different, you know what I mean? They're not as clean as they pretend to be on the financial aspect of things. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They took a whole shit ton of money from the average American person and promised that they were going to go fight for us, and have not at all.
Right. And then want to come back to the well after not delivering on anything, and not only not delivering, and I think it was David Sirota, so I'll take him as his word as a reporter. When he interviewed AOC, he said, you have voted 91% with Joe Biden. 91. What's the difference?
There is
what's literally the difference here? What's literally the difference, Misty? It's literally no difference. But let's continue with the article.
Pelosi. She's baby Nancy Pelosi, straight up.
And I really do believe that's what she's being groomed to be.
Yes,
I really do believe that's what she's being groomed to be. But it's tough being a member of the squad these days. Is that a joke? It's tough. Writing books. It's tough, Misty. Writing books and going to galas.
Making hundreds of thousands of dollars to do absolutely fuck all. You know who it's hard for? You know who it's tough for? Rome, trying to build a library in his community. It's hard for you trying to raise your kids in economic turmoil. It's hard for JP trying to deal with his health issues when he can't, afford to pay for anything and his rent's getting raised and he's got to crowdfund for medication and shit. That's who it's hard for. If you expect me to feel sorry for any member of the fucking squad, you got me fucked up. That's not ever gonna happen. No.
But yeah, so I get you right here. It's tough being a member of the squad. That's classic. That should be put on a shirt. Yeah. With the word psych at the end, I guess. Once the darlings of the we should do that because we're working on doing our merchandise store. And right now, the only thing holding us up is trying to find, of course, union, non-sweatshop T-shirts. You get what I'm saying? That's the tough part we're finding. So if anybody knows, email us, info@revblacknetwork.com. If you know of anybody, union-made T-shirts, non-sweatshop, paid well, email us and then we'll give them a tryout. But let's continue. Where was I? Once the darlings of the American left, the group of progressive and socialist House members that include AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, and others, I think I will include Ayanna Pressley initially, I guess will complete this group for me.
I mean, that was always weird to me. She literally was a Hillary Clinton surrogate, and people tried to lump her in as like some lefty member of the squad. She's never been, I don't even think she's really progressive. I mean,
you're talking about Ayanna Pressley, right? Because I was going to say the same thing.
She trashed Bernie Sanders. She was a huge Hillary Clinton surrogate and supporter. Like, she's not. That was always a weird addition to the quote unquote squad. But I think they were just trying to, boost the numbers and tick off some boxes.
Make it seem like it was bigger than it was.
Mm-hmm.
Rashida Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, and others are likely. Wow. I don't know how I missed this sentence right here when I read this earlier. Maybe I just don't remember. But let me rewind back. Includes AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, and others are as likely to be savage these days from the left as they are from the right, and I must raise my hand, I'm one of those from the left that's trying to savage them. And here's where you and I and the rest of RBN and, you know, the Convo Couch and Nico House and Jimmy Dore, this is where we come in, and I can't, you know, do dissidents and Heartlands Media. Popular YouTube commentators regularly denounce them as sellouts. Protesters interrupt their meetings, calling them warmongers. That's
accurate.
Jose Vega. Shout out to Jose Vega.
Yep.
And even committed socialists question what the point of the squad has been.
Yeah,
and
those are all valid points.
You just took the words right out. I was just about to say, you're saying it as if this is not a valid reaction to
100% valid.
See.
Yeah.
Right. The lion's share of this IRA has been trained on AOC, who's faced relentless criticism since winning office from all sides.
She's such a victim.
Yes. She's had so much violent words coming at her, I guess, like loser and a grifter. Sometimes over substantive issues. I always have issue with that word. Once failing to show up for an Amazon union rally, casting a vote that denied rail workers the ability to strike, sometimes over remarkably petty ones, conciliatory rhetoric, and the positioning of her hands while being arrested. We're not going to get through this article if we have to break down each part here. So let's
this is like Max Blumenthal trying to get through Kennedy's bullshit on
HBO. Exactly.
It's literally every sentence. Yeah.
Exactly. That is the feeling I'm getting. But sometimes more important issues, since I have a trouble saying that word all the time, I'll say more important issues, failing to show up at a union rally. So at least the article acknowledging that is a big issue and also casting a vote. And then I can
name at least a dozen more right off the top of my head.
A dozen more that would fall into the important issue category. Yeah. What it substantially outweighs what they describe as remarkably petty ones, because conciliatory rhetoric, calling Joe Biden, that's important. That's not small. No. Calling Joe Biden doing like he's doing good. He's a great progressive. None of that to me. That's I would lift that up. Positioning her hands. They're talking about the fake arrest. Photo.
That was some funny shit. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you are a staunch AOC supporter. That was some funny shit, and she deserved to be roasted for it.
Yeah, because that was because to me, vitriol has a more anger.
That was just she's getting made fun of. That's not vitriolic.
Yeah, that was more of just like
you're getting
made fun of. Yeah, like you just like on Friday when Debo got knocked out, you got knocked the fuck out. Like that's it. Like it's nothing else other than that.
Yeah.
Much of this crystallized in a recent critical analysis of AOC's record in New York Magazine by Freddie D. Bauer, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Actually, I don't think I said it, but this is part of one of the listed topics in promoting this. And I'll let me cut to that real quick because it's talking about it in an article. So a couple of things I thought for sure we're going to be covering. And the first thing I have listed, the fallout from the Freddie DeBauer article continues. And that's what this is, because this is like Article 3. At least I can say this is Article 3 that we've covered on RBN. And then left-wing commentators is the cause of all of the AOC hate, I guess. That's us, and I'll wear that as a badge of honor if they want to give us that. And the professional managerial class left is in panic mode over the collapse of the narrative of AOC. Do you sort of get that with the feeling with these articles that they're coming out with, that they're sort of in panic mode about this? It feels different, like the down time for progressives where we haven't been happy, even with the Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. I know you weren't really a part of that.
No.
Bernie Sanders stealing of the election. It feels different. It feels like the people saying, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
There's people that say that, and then they end up going back. It feels like there's a lot more people that's not going to be going back to that.
Well, there's an election coming up, so of course they're. I don't know if they're panicking necessarily, but they're definitely trying to control the narrative. They're definitely trying to ensure that they can continue to facilitate the funneling of revolutionary energy into a completely corrupted party and electoral process. And so, yeah, that's what these articles are doing. They're trying to retain some of her street cred, trying to make sure that, they're not, she's not now seen as just a liberal, which I think anybody with 2 eyes and 2 brain cells that she is 100% a liberal. Like she is, like I said, she's baby Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she's voting with Joe Biden 91% of the time. She's supporting war. She's supporting big pharma. She's supporting the intelligence community. I mean, what else do you need? She won't fight for healthcare. She won't fight. Remember, she told us she couldn't fight for healthcare because $15 an hour was more doable. And then when it came time to fight for $15 an hour, she wasn't going to do that either. But yeah, she's a real help to the working class. She's so useful. Give up.
That is such a great point. Let's continue here. So much of this was crystallized in a recent critical analysis of AOC's record in New York Magazine by Freddie DeBauer, who charged she has drifted, and this is a quote from the article, from radical outsider to establishment liberal. End quote. That to me, I mean,
she didn't drift anything.
Now, I was just about to say, you're giving her a lot of credit by calling her radical outsider.
She was never.
But establishment liberal, I don't have any issue. I just see it as it's the same person. You know that meme of the guy from Scooby Doo, and they take his mask off. Yeah. So under AOC has always been this establishment liberal or wannabe, and now it's just her initiation is over, and she has now crossed over. She put the tassel to the other side.
Yeah, she's just. I think she's. It's harder for her to maintain that kind of image because her actions don't meet that at all. So that was the image that was presented when she initially ran. Radical outsider, right? She's going to go and she's going to cause a ruckus and she's going to fight. She's going to fight the corruption in the Democratic Party. Y'all, the second she got elected, she immediately stopped talking about the corruption in the Democratic Party. And all she does now is talk about Republicans. And she has never once really, in any substantive way, challenged her own party on anything. She's never been a radical outsider. Y'all, she interned for Ted Kennedy. You don't get an internship with Ted Kennedy if you're just a bartender. That's not a thing that happens. So yeah, she's always been a manufactured candidate. Always.
It's good to have you on for this too, because I was awake or woke, if we want to use that, to AOC before everybody else, but I wasn't before you. Like you was before anybody else I know. So it's good to be able to have somebody go, yeah, that was bullshit from the beginning, and be able to say this is why, because that's good. Because back when AOC was stomping for Bernie Sanders in 2020, was it 2020? I guess it has been 3 years. Wow, I can't believe this. But in 2020, I was tweeting that, I don't buy this shit from her at all.
No.
Yeah, I was already tweeting that, but you was way before that too. So
I took a lot of shit for it too. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people unfollowed me, blocked me, yelled at me. Same thing happened when I went after Bernie Sanders immediately following 2016. So I'm used to it. But yeah, people were not happy with me for coming.
That's what happens when you're ahead. That's literally what happens when you're ahead of the curve. That's literally what happens. We were getting a lot of that about Marianne Williamson. About 6 months ago, we were getting a lot of that. So let's continue. All right. So to establishment liberal, making mere, this is another quote, token gestures of resistance to solidify the illusion that she is a gadfly. What is that? Do you know what that means? I can look that up in a second.
A gadfly? No, I don't really. I've heard it before. I don't really know. I don't think I've ever really paid attention. I don't hear it often. Jacobin likes to use those kind of
Yeah, it signals to the professional managerial class. This is written by a
Oh,
professional
it's
managerial class.
an annoying person, especially one who provokes others into action by criticism.
Okay. All right. So we learn a new word. I'm that type, everybody. Sorry that I stop and I look up the meaning.
We got some vocabulary today.
Yes. And I hope I'm saying it right. Gadfly. Sounds like I'm
that's
saying
right.
it right.
No, I've heard it before. I've just never paid attention, really.
Okay. And argue that her and the rest of the squad's entry into Congress has been entirely fruitless. And I agree with that assessment, and lots of people did. That's why that article absolutely went viral on Twitter, and a bunch of people covered it online, including Bad Faith. She actually had the writer on. Katie Halper had the writer on her show. Somebody else. Circular Talk with Kyle, all based on this article. This is what I mean by there's a panic going on. But this is hard to square with both a closer analysis of AOC and the squad's record and with the picture painted by progressive groups and unions that work with her. So they're trying to say other progressive groups and unions say something else, try to give them cover by saying other people who are in the fight are saying that. But let's see who they talk about. Have they occasionally fallen short? Sure. Anytime somebody's asking themselves a question, I don't know about that. Especially somebody when they're trying to defend somebody that's indefensible. Let me say it that way, because I do that too sometimes, send a question and answer it. Have they occasionally fallen short? Sure. But the reality of the squad's accomplishments and movement importance is far more positive than the one-dimensional, gloomy narrative that has become popular in some corners of the left. So the writer of this article, Misty, is saying, just like the people who are pushing Bidenomics, the squad is doing good things. They just got a bad messaging team. The Biden is doing great in the economy. It's just bad messaging. Why nobody's buying it, and why people are having these opinions of them. So next part of the article, a tremendous win. I guess they start to go into accomplishments. Let's see what they're labeling as accomplishments. First, there's lawmaking. AOC's legislative record is not nearly as barren as her detractors have it. You need to take a breath.
She's the least productive member of Congress.
Yes, there's an article. Literally an article about that. Go ahead.
Okay, anyway. You're doing great things, guys. Promise.
Yeah, much like Bernie Sanders, the Congresswoman has been able to sneak through the cumbersome legislative process by putting forward amendments to larger bills. For example, one successful 2019 amendment 4 years ago, let's make sure we understand that's 4 years ago, cut $5 million from the Drug Enforcement Administration budget and redirected it to treatment programs for opioid crisis. A year later, she managed to get her repeal of the 1998 Fair Cloth Amendment passed through the House, a landmark vote and longtime priority for affordable housing advocates, giving Bill Clinton era measure effective ban on new public housing construction. Oops, I had to pop up here. Now, let's continue before I give my critique of these. Another from 2022 mandated the Pentagon study the therapeutic uses of MDMA and hallucinogens. Sometimes AOC and the squad have made contributions by blocking legislation instead of passing it. I can't believe they said that last part. So let's go to some of the things that they say that she has done and put it in perspective of the things that she hasn't, the bad things she has done.
Yeah.
So let's say we're going to give her all credit, because there will be some that would say all of this stuff they're listing doesn't even shouldn't even belong all to her. But let's just say they
No.
all belong to her. All the credit belongs to her as they're trying to make this appear like 2019 amendment, $5 million, drug enforcement redirected to treatment centers of opioid crisis.
How about healthcare?
Let me ask you this, Misty. How's the opioid crisis going?
It's worse than ever.
Is it getting better or worse? It's getting worse or better since 2019?
No, it's getting worse. Much worse.
So is this 5 million? Is this a drop in a bucket? Is that more closely of, again, these are crumbs. They're trying to make it seem like crumbs is worth the disaster that they brought.
Well, and it really just goes into the same the pockets of the same people. I mean, you know what I mean? It's they give you a problem, the opioid crisis, and then they sell you the solution. And it's really all funneled back in. Who do you think runs the treatment programs? You know what I'm saying? Like it's all just like this circle jerk of corruption. And it's, again, what about healthcare? Can we not just get healthcare for people and then include treatment for drug addiction and alcoholism and all of those things in that healthcare? No, we can't do that. But she's going to throw a Band-Aid on a dead body and tell you that it's a win. She's real good at that. She's real good at like, she'll flick some crumbs in your general direction and then call it a win. She's real good at that.
And then the Fair Cloth Amendment that passed through the House, a landmark vote. Again, the description of landmark vote. These are outsized sort of descriptions of what this should be. These are crumbs that should not even be all attributed to her.
No.
So that's two. And then, of course, this 2022 mandate that Pentagon to study the therapeutics of what? The harm being done by the vote that she cast to send millions to Ukraine?
Right. And she just keeps voting for the ridiculous budgets and all. Yeah, I mean, that's okay. Listen, I'm all for the study of therapeutic uses of MDMA and hallucinogens. I think there is legit something there, and we need to be looking at that, in particular for people with things like PTSD, our soldiers coming home from war. I think that it can also be used as a way to help people who are actually dealing with drug addiction. I think that can help them deal with some of the underlying issues, and it can help get them in a better headspace through therapeutic dosage. But I'm all for that. So I'm not trying to like poo-poo that, but it's like one of those things where it's like a crumb that she's kind of flicked in your general direction, and she expects you to overlook all of the other terrible things that she's doing and the war budgets that she's voting for. And she's like, oh, but I want them to study MDMA. Okay. Thanks. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure that the kids of Syria will really thank you for that. You know what I mean? Great.
Right. It's I mean, let me think of a good analogy for it in a second. I'll tell you, everybody. Sometimes AOC and the squad have made contributions by blocking legislations instead of passing it. Like, oh, you mean like blocking Nancy Pelosi and get Medicare for all on the floor vote? Oh, she didn't do that.
Oh, wait, you mean about the Iron Dome? No. She didn't do that either.
She didn't do that either.
She didn't do that either.
She didn't do that. Blocking any funding to the Ukraine?
No, she didn't do that either. Oh, wait, I bet she voted for there to be like an audit of the money. Oh, no, she didn't do that either. No, that would
no. So there you go. Sean Vicka, Policy Counsel for Demand Progress, told Jacobin the squad, and particularly Representative Tlaib, were instrumental in a major 2019, again, 4 years ago, victory against mass surveillance. I can't believe they have the audacity to bring it. Victory against mass surveillance when they forced through the end of the Patriot Act, Section 215. The controversial provision had allowed the warrantless collection of broad swaths of business records, everything from banking and library history to medical records, and most controversially, phone metadata, and drew particular outrage when the Edward Snowden leaks revealed just how badly it was being abused to spy on Americans. So this is what they're saying. So here we go. This policy council demand person, whoever this person is, says the person was instrumental. What does that mean? What does that tangibly mean, Misty? The person was instrumental in getting something passed. What does that mean? Somebody in Congress or on Capitol Hill named Sean Vicka, whom we're supposed to, I guess, give all our trust in his description, says she was instrumental in getting this done. Now, is this a good thing to get out? This is the same thing you said earlier.
They're still doing all of this shit.
That's what I'm saying. This is
nothing stops.
This is good, but is this a good trade-off? This is the question, Misty. Is this trade-off good or a adequate trade-off for the bad stuff they're doing?
Are these little they didn't accomplish anything. This didn't exactly. They're still doing this shit. There's still an unbelievable mass surveillance system. They're still collecting your banking records and your phone metadata and all of this stuff. All this was performative. This was very superficial. Again, it was one of those things where it's smoke and mirrors. They want to like put up the show for you and be like, looky, we got to win. All of this shit continued. They're still doing it today. So there is no trade-off. They got nothing here. And in fact, most of them won't even mention Edward Snowden. You know what I'm saying? They're not advocating for him to be pardoned. They're not advocating for him to be allowed to be brought home. That's what I'm saying. Like all of this stuff they're very good at this. Politicians are very good at this. They understand the game and they know how to present things in a way where for the uninitiated, for people who are not paying attention and who just take people at their word or whatever, if somebody tells you, hey, we got this thing done, most people will just believe you at face value. And they know that. And so they're very good at presenting these things to you as if it's some kind of a win, when in fact, if you're paying attention and you know anything about what all of this stuff means, it's not. They really don't get anything accomplished. It's all very, like I said, it's like a soap opera, but with psychopaths. That's all it is. It's a show.
Now listen to this. So they do kind of go into, I guess this is what Rashida Tlaib did. Let's listen, or let's read through. When time came to reauthorize the Patriots Act's many sunset provisions in 2019, according to Vicka, Tlaib served as, quote, one of the key organizers, Misty, of a congressional letter.
A strongly worded letter.
Signed by 20 House Democrats, including herself and fellow squad member Omar and AOC, vowing to oppose it unless certain privacy protections were ensured. They wrote a letter. So when I said, what do you mean instrumental? This is it. This is the credit. This is the stuff that we're supposed to say, oh, wow, we've been too hard on them. I don't get it, but let's try to get through some more time.
Wait till this next sentence. This is my favorite part.
Oh, good Lord. Quote, Tlaib helped lead one of, if not the earliest efforts staking out what reform would be necessary to allow the Patriot Act to continue.
The Patriot Act shouldn't fucking continue. There is no reforming the Patriot Act. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
The idea that is seen as some kind of a win. Oh, well, she did a stakeout of what reform needed to happen in order to allow the Patriot Act to continue. That's a fucking loss. Take your L, sis. The Patriot Act should be lit on fire. You know what I'm saying? This is not a win. There is no reforming the Patriot Act. It is absurd that this is being couched as a win. No, thank you. No.
Yeah. Rashida Tlaib is the type that's saying, let's reform Guantanamo Bay. Let's reform it, guys. Not get rid of it. All right. The end result, Section 215 and two other controversial provisions finally expired. After then, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in May 2020 pulled the reauthorization bill, realizing that opposition from progressive Democrats and Freedom Caucus Republicans meant the votes weren't there. So are we giving credit to the squad or the Freedom Caucus Republicans for
I
the
guess
passage
both.
of
But I
this?
mean, we're not supposed to work with people we don't agree with, so that seems weird. Maybe she loves
Right.
fascists. She must be a Nazi.
They're banking a lot on this guy speaking
Yeah.
fondly of this strongly worded letter that they wrote.
Yeah.
Here's another quote. This was a tremendous win, says Vitka. I'll be damned. Let me say it in his voice. Quote, I'll be damned if that isn't one of the biggest success in terms of protecting the privacy interests of the U.S. public, end quote. No, maybe Julian Assange, maybe a ton of other shit, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
this
They're
is
still spying on
terrible.
you guys. Your privacy interests have not been protected. Nobody's protected your privacy. Nobody, not a single person has done anything. I should say, no member of Congress, no member of government. I mean, to be fair, I think Thomas Massie has tried some things. I think Rand Paul, as much as I dislike him greatly, for personal reasons. Uh, nobody. There's nobody. There's nobody who's fighting for your privacy. Nobody. Not in government.
Not a single one.
No.
I'll read a little more. Then I'm going to play a video for the last few minutes. You're going to be here. I'll read a little more here.
I can hang out till like 5:30ish.
Okay, so then I'll read some more, and I'll still play video, but I'll read a lot more of it. We'll be able to possibly finish this, actually. Anti-imperialist assists
anti-imperialist. God damn it!
It's the ability of the professional managerial class to divide crumbs. It's like it's a little crumb, and they want to go, let me half that shit up. Here you go. Like it's that ability to be able to do that. But let's read more. Critics have pointed to AOC and the rest of the squad's support for continual military aid to Ukraine to charge their counterfeit and anti-imperial to charge their. Oh, I'm sorry. It should have been worded differently. As a writer, you should write this differently. But I'll read it as it's written. To Ukraine to charge their counterfeit anti-imperialists or even war hawks.
Because they are.
Because before we see it, I'm trying to understand how is it? Are you going to be able to prove that their continuous support to aid to Ukraine doesn't mean they're anti-imperialists?
No, you can't. Those two
I don't understand how they're
together. No,
right.
No,
I don't see how they're going to be able to combat that. But let's see. But important as it is, the Ukraine war is not the only pressing foreign policy issue. You notice how they skip over that? Let's skip over the elephant in the room and let's go talk about these mice in the corner.
Well, and again, you're about to get some more crumbs. Here they come. You ready? You ready for some crumbs? If you're hungry, here we go.
Take Latin America, for instance. AOC was, after Omar, the second member of Congress to declare the 2019 Bolivian coup what it was, a coup. Beating even Sanders by a couple of hours. Is this serious? Is this serious?
Seriously? You want me to give them credit for calling a coup a coup? Have you lost your fucking mind? No, you don't. You get zero credit for that. That is just an obvious statement of fact. And in fact, if we really want to go there, when she was asked very directly by Max Blumenthal about the obvious coup taking place in Venezuela, she deferred first. She totally dodged the question. We're working on a statement. It took ages for her to come out with a statement. And then when she did, we defer to caucus leadership. You defer to caucus leadership on a fucking coup? Okay, fine. You called the Bolivian coup a coup. What? Okay, it's what it was. You get no credit for just telling the truth. Really? That's how low your bar is? It's mind-blowing. This is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Oh.
This is to your point, but it's the same area, but a different part of it. They're supposed to get credit for beating Bernie Sanders, the other cuck. They're supposed to get credit, Misty, for beating him by a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Is that real? Is that real? Beating
That's
even
real.
Sanders by a couple of hours and staking out a position that's somehow still a minority opinion in U.S. politics.
Yeah.
In fact, she further introducing an amendment banning the transfer of weapons and crowd control equipment to coup regimes. She's getting credit for something that should be obvious.
Yeah.
In anything? Is that what you're talking about?
I mean, didn't they also? I'm pretty
God.
sure she follows Juan Guaido. So not only did she defer to caucus leadership on the coup in Venezuela, but then she also essentially recognized Juan Guaido as like the de facto president of Venezuela. I'm pretty sure that they all did that. They all went along with that bullshit. I'm pretty sure.
I'm just amazed, but it is something that I've been noticing that that they've been doing this the whole time, but I have now picked up their pattern. Or I mean, we've all have. It's not anything special about me, but picked up their pattern of their descriptions, their adjectives, their way of describing something is always outsized from what it is always like blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
It's like they always take a crumb to FedEx Kinko's and say, make this, poster size so I can show everybody what I did. And it's like, that is freaking a crumb. But let me continue. And to finish the sentence, it said language that made it into the bill that passed. So language that said don't transfer weapons to coup regimes. I guess.
Except she votes for arming and funding Ukraine. That's a coup regime. Right. Straight up. That is a coup regime. So she's a ginormous hypocrite.
She's been similarly out front when it comes to Colombia, where leftist president Gustavo Petro has been struggling to enact his agenda amid a trenched opposition, a divided Congress, and drug-fueled violence. In 2022, this is something recent, more recent, 2 of AOC's amendments made it into the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act that passed the House. They're talking about the Authorization Act that was almost $900 billion, Misty. Are they talking about that? You're talking about getting some crumbs in on something that is almost $900 billion.
Yeah, and read what the crumbs are too, because one of it's just, you gotta produce a report.
Look at this. Okay, so let's continue. 1, directing the State Department to produce a report, their version of strongly worded letter, I guess, on U.S. involvement in U.S. involvement in human rights violations during the country's decade-long civil war, and another prohibiting any Pentagon involvement in anti-narcotic aerial fumigation operations in the country. What?
So what she's saying
is can't be involved in any spraying of. Go ahead.
Yeah, if they're growing, if somebody's growing drugs, she wants the Pentagon to not have any involvement in fumigating operations, because that can contaminate water sources. So, which I'm sure the Pentagon is totally gonna listen to that. And also, if you continue in the next paragraph, this is something that was already in place by Petro. She just put her stamp of approval on it, I guess. Again, crumbs. Like this is
crazy.
A report.
This is crazy.
And an amendment to prohibit the Pentagon from messing with drug dealers. We are the drug dealers.
Okay, so how about this, writer of this article? Any of these things you're listing as accomplishments, are any of these the things they promised they would get done on the campaign trail and when they were asking for money?
0.
Was any of these things?
No.
None of these things are these things that you're listing, these crumbs. Again, this is the professional managerial class. They take crumbs, they take a picture of it, they haul it down to the local FedEx Kinko, and blow that shit up into a poster and say, look what we did.
And not only is this not anything that they ran on, that they promised, that they, was part of their campaign, none of this, but the things that were promises that they've made, that were campaign slogans, that were all of those things that they claimed to be fighting for so that you would go out and donate and vote for them, they don't even talk about that stuff. I mean, if you notice, in between elections, from 2020 to now, zero. There's been zero talk about Medicare for all, healthcare. Zero. They don't talk about it. Like everyone, it was years. It was like probably a year and a half, 2 years, where I think maybe AOC mentioned it like 2 or 3 times. And now suddenly we got an election coming up. So just you wait. My prediction is we're going to start hearing a lot more about Medicare for all. And I think we've already seen it from Pramila Jayapal.
With her bill.
Yeah, well, the bill that she refused to fight for because it would kill the movement.
Yeah, ain't that something?
Yeah,
ain't that something? They really think we're idiots.
Yeah,
Misty. They really don't think we have all of our marbles at all. Hang on 1 second. Are you going to play volleyball or something? Okay. All right.
I want to go play volleyball.
My 13-year-old. Has taken up volleyball, so she's.
I love volleyball. I couldn't play it because it interfered with softball, and that was my jam. But
yeah,
I'm tall, so I'm pretty good.
Yeah, my daughter's a taller female, so that's why we got her into volleyball. So, but anyway, let's continue with the article. Where did we leave off? It was right here.
Yeah.
In 2022, two of her amendments made it into the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act. Wait, no, I did read this already. My bad, everybody. This is the second one right here I'm supposed to be reading. And another prohibiting any Pentagon involvement in anti-narcotic aerial fumigation operations in the country, which have contaminated water sources and caused serious health problems for Colombians. Now, this is not stopping it. It's the Pentagon. She doesn't want them participating in it. So the article sort of gives them credit. The way they're trying to phrase it as this is what these things do, but what she didn't stop this.
No.
Supposedly they didn't. And the Pentagon always tell us the truth. Right, Misty, when they're involved in stuff, they always tell us. So her saying this into law, that stops them.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're totally going to listen, 100%. And I'm sure that the CIA wouldn't take up that slack if they did happen to, no, that's not going to happen. And again, this is all we're pretending that we're not the drug dealers because we absolutely are. This is a known fact that, the CIA has been funneling drugs into this country for a very long time. I don't think they're going to stop. I don't know. It's a big money maker for them. I'm pretty sure they're going to continue doing that.
Since the latter policy had already been put in place, as they admit right here, by the embattled Pedro, AOC amendment was effectively a signal of U.S. support for his move, one that got significant press coverage in the country. 34 Colombian senators wrote to the U.S. colleagues urging them to adopt the measure, and when they were left out of the Senate version, a coalition of progressive groups as well as Colombian human rights organizations wrote Congress urging they be taken up partly on the basis of supporting the Colombian government's effort. It's a vivid illustration of the way the squad's presence in Congress, this is their, because it didn't go through. They took it out, right? Because I was just about to say, how was this credit when they took it out? It's that their very presence, them being there, reinforced the work of both outside groups and left-wing movements abroad. This is again going to Kinko's with a picture of a crumb and blowing it up into a poster. Here's a quote: "It might not matter to those sitting in wealthy countries and posting online, that's us, But in the countries faced with harmful policies enacted by the U.S. or their allies, seeing prominent politicians speak out can give hope and momentum to these people's movement. You mean like Palestine? You mean like Palestine? This person who's quoting. What about that?
Yeah. What about that? What about that? You know, all that anti-imperialist, what they call them, anti-imperialist
assist.
Anti-imperialist assist. I'm sorry, my friends. I've been dealing with Kennedy supporters on this. You cannot be a Zionist. You cannot support Israel and call yourself an anti-imperialist. The two things are mutually fucking exclusive. Period. You cannot. You cannot. You're not an anti-imperialist. You need to stop using that word. It does not describe you. And it is mind-blowing to me that that needs to be explained to people. They're not anti-imperialist. She's anti-imperialist. The idea that they even included anti-imperialist assist in this fucking article as they're all voting to arm neo-Nazis in Ukraine. It's crazy.
Ain't that something? That's literally them telling you, you guys, the readers are stupid, and whatever we write, you're gonna believe because we got degrees, and you're gonna believe us. I'm gonna skip down to this part just for the sake of time. I do want to cover some more of this article, and if you want to go read more, some of the parts that we skipped, the article is already in the description box. You can go ahead and check it out in the description box already. But let's move down to this part where it says upside, inside out. Meanwhile, AOC and the squad are uniquely responsive to unions and outside groups, according to those who have worked with them. This is why I wanted to skip down here. They weren't responsive to force a vote. They weren't They didn't show up to the Medicare for All rally. And even in this own article, Misty, Jacobin admits it. Yeah. Didn't they just say this way up when I just read? They said, and they listed this as a big thing. They didn't list this as one of the trivial things. They listed as one of the big things was not showing up to an Amazon protest or strike. I can't remember how they phrased it. Yeah. But then they have the audacity later on in the article to say AOC and the squad uniquely responds to union and outside groups according to those who have worked with them.
This is Joe Biden continuing to say that he's the most labor-friendly president. It's bullshit. I can call myself whatever I want, right? If I repeat it enough, some people will believe it. And that's exactly what this is. They just want you, they know that a lot of people, I don't mean to condescend to people. I think that the average American person does not have time like you and I to really dig into this stuff and to really examine people's records. It sucks, but that's just the reality of it. So a lot of people in this country will read an article like this and walk away from it like, oh yeah, she is really for the people, because they don't have the time to actually look into her record and all of that stuff. So this stuff flies with those people. I guess in a way, when you said, do they think that you're dumb? Yeah, they're counting on it. They're counting, not dumb. I mean, they're counting on people not having the context, the knowledge here, that kind of that's underneath the surface. They want you to look surface level and just believe what we tell you. Like you said, come on, we got fancy degrees. We wouldn't lie to you. They're lying to you. Responsive to unions, responsive to union leadership, maybe. That's about all I've seen.
Yeah, that's really what they are responsive to. And let's continue a little more. These are so now they're going into the people that say AOC's great in the squad. Let's see who they list. Here's a quote. AOC herself in her first weeks in office, again, this is 2018, reached out to me when people really bought into AOC the most.
Yeah.
So let's reach back then. Reached out to me and came to my office for a meeting. She's the only member of Congress who's ever done that. That's the end of the quote? And you move on? What? Okay, you got to have more. Okay, let's see. She's here for 2 hours talking through issues, trying to learn what was important to us. AOC, Nielsen adds, AOC has solicited information from and worked with the unions to try to ensure its priorities were represented through the Federal Aviation's reauthorization process. Still, it's nothing
Again,
there
this is from
tangible.
when
This is
she
just
very
essence.
first took office, and she came
Yes.
and she sat with you for 2 hours. And I'm supposed to give her credit for that. Really? I'll
Okay.
come sit with you for 2 hours.
And
You know
then
what
this
I mean?
quote, I have her chief of staff on my cell
Oh,
phone,
wow.
says Deputy Director of Food and Water Action, Mitch Jones. We found her office to be responsive when we needed them to be. Food and Water Watch criticized AOC's Green New Deal resolution at the time for failing to eliminate fossil fuels directly. Criticism that was met with policy response. Really? They've outlawed
No,
some fossil fuels?
no.
Quote, after hearing feedback from us, she introduced the Fracking Ban Act. Not everyone who supported the Green New Deal was willing to take on the fossil fuel in that way. She introduced a bill. Did
And
the bill
she doesn't
pass?
even talk about, no, she doesn't even talk about it. When's the last time you heard her talk about the Green New Deal? Legit, when is it? When is the last time that she's ever really like had a serious conversation? And the Green New Deal, really? We could get into that. We don't have time, but we could get into that. The Green New Deal is a fucking joke. It is an abomination. It is a giveaway to corporations. That's what that is. It is the ACA, but for the environment. You know what I'm saying? Like it is a giveaway. It's a giveaway.
Let's bring up the article and finish up. We'll be getting out of here in probably less than 5 minutes. Let's continue here. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC, has worked with progressive organizations on other legislation and campaigns. In 2019, the Congresswoman introduced a 6-page legislative package named A Just Society, focusing on everything from anti-poverty initiatives to improving working conditions, with her Place to Prosper Act, including national rent and control and beefed up tenant protections. Now, again, this is her first year in office, 2019. Back when people used to believe in her, back when she was joined, I forget, I don't know if it was the Sunrise Movement or some activist climate group was outside of Nancy Pelosi's office door, and she joined them. This is that AOC. The stuff, the 3 of the 4 items I've read so far, maybe 4 of the 5 items I've read so far, are all from those years. 3, 4, and sometimes 5 years ago. 2018. Yeah, 5 years ago. Let's continue. Quote, the Center for Popular Democracy worked closely with the Congresswoman on the housing portion of the package, end quote. The organization's co-director, Anayalia Mejia, told Jacobin that included joining CPD affiliates for several mobilizations over housing, including on an August 2019 Welcome Back Congress action that saw hundreds of protesters turn up at House members' offices. What this article bogs you down in tedious descriptions of crumbs. Tedious descriptions of crumbs. I should say not tedious. Let me use a different word. Meticulous descriptions of crumbs. The overall perspective, the question is, is it good enough in all the so-called wins in this article? Are those wins, if we stack those up with the L's, which would be higher? Which would be heavier on a scale? Like, you're literally talking the Great Wall of China versus your neighbor's gate. They're both kind of barriers. One is your neighbor's gate. The other one is the Great Wall of China. Let's read a little more and then close out here. Finally, this is under Seeds of Radicalism. Finally, there's the somewhat more nebulous role AOC and the squad have played in the political shifts of the past years. The process of political transformation is messy and chaotic. Desperate actions add up little by little, then suddenly building up pressure on those in power, expanding the bonds of what's possible and creating momentum for change. It's undeniable that the squad, by virtue of their work in Congress and acting as a conduit for outside groups, have been integral to this. That is absolutely not undeniable. That is absolutely false. You are stating facts that are not in evidence, sir. AOC's Green New Deal resolution might be one of the most impactful pieces of legislation that never became law. Simply by generating the level of publicity and debate it did, something hard to imagine without her involvement, the measure has directly inspired similar versions at the state and city levels and even in other countries. This article has, they're doing something different in this article than some other articles. This is one of the first articles that is kind of trying to, what's the right word? Trying to quantify the essence of the squad, trying to quantify the supposed influence of the squad as something we're supposed to use as something as a something we're getting for putting them in office. So that's the only way this article is even this long. It's because it's meticulous descriptions of crumbs. Imagine if you took a crumb, you blew it up, and you described each of the little craters and corners and jagged edges. That's essentially what they're doing here with this article, and trying to turn the essence, the very essence, the very aura of the squad into a thing. I think I mean I'm gonna have to leave it here because hang on a second here. Okay, left-wing scrutiny of the squad and particularly AOC has steadily veered from constructive criticism and needed to pressure a kind of caricaturish vitriol. More than that, a number of popular pandemic-era policies had antecedent in or receive critical public support from the squad. Is this? I didn't read this far. I'm amazed myself. So you're kind of getting me being shocked at the level of, this is like fantasy talk. This is like old folks' tales of cowboys. Resisting despair. AOC and the rest of the squad are elected officials. There's any number of criticism of their time in Congress that are fair, reasonable, and necessary, including over key votes they've been on the wrong side on. Times they failed to stand with unions, and their failure to, as promised, fully take advantage of the leverage they've had under the Democratic, formerly slim House majority. Left-wing scrutiny of the squad, and particularly Representative AOC, has steadily, we read this part, steadily magnified to caricature of vitriol. One that magnifies the ways they've fallen short while saying nothing about their accomplishments nor usefulness to activists and worker movement, because they haven't. That's not a thing. Sometimes you suspect the most unfair critics have taken their anger and frustration at the conservative, corporate-controlled political system in which they have to operate and simply redirected it at the Congresswoman's herself. No, it's what she's doing and not doing. She's not fighting. And this is a blind spot of the professional managerial class. They have no idea what a fight looks like. None. So they have no idea when or whether or not to determine whether the squad is fighting, because they don't go and they're not in fights. What's at stake isn't the feeling of one member of Congress or even the squad's career, but the health of the socialist and broader progressive movement. The health of the socialists in the United States have zero to do with these clowns you call the squad. Zero. Nothing at all. The left and the progressive movement is dead. We covered this yesterday. The Bernie Sanders movement is dead. Something like 12,000. DSA lost like 12,000 members in 2022 or 21. I can't remember. Just as Democrats just laid off a bunch of people because of money. Donations have dried up. Nina Turner was not able to be reelected twice. There is clearly a pivot in this former left coalition where people have completely checked out. And it's a direct result of the squad, or a direct result of the lack of production from the squad. So let me continue to read. The left pessimism embodied by the New York Times magazine profile, which argues explicitly that socialists have nothing to show for 5 years of electoral victories and that the whole experiment should be abandoned, is a recipe for despair, apathy, and in the end, demobilization. No, or it's a recipe to mobilize outside of the red-blue game. It's a recipe to mobilize and hop off the blue boat and hop on the green boat with Dr. Cornel West. It's a recipe for people to finally wake up and say, we have been bamboozled and fooled for far too long. It's time for us to check out of this abusive relationship. So that's where the left pessimism is going. Not in this nonsense that you're trying to pretend, a recipe for despair and apathy. We are already despair. The despair is what's causing him to leave the democratic process through the blue team, which may already be having a trickle-down effect. It's a self-defeating, possibly self-fulfilling prophecy that threatens to undermine socialist gains. There have been no socialist gains. You lying magazine Jacobin, there has been none. You are shielding for the people who are confusing people's understanding of socialism. You are participating in the miseducation of socialism, Jacobin. Ironically, at the exact same time, the movement is racking up victories it hasn't seen in many decades, because there is none. There is none.